Good morning, recreators, and welcome to episode 4 on our series of Leave No Trace principles. Today we're going to discuss principle number 3, which is dispose of waste properly. We're going to go over the hand symbols again in just a minute, but if I can summarize this principle, it's simply just take home whatever you brought with you. Trash and litter is a human impact that greatly detracts from the beauty of a natural area. So today we're going to cover the impact of litter. We're going to show you a few items and how long it takes them to degrade out in the wild. We're also going to teach you how to properly deal with human waste when you're out on a backcountry trip. And we're also going to show you a couple of ways that you can reduce the amount of trash that you take with you. That'll be very helpful if you go on a backpacking trip to reduce your weight, the amount that you carry. It'll give you a little bit more space in your bag. So we're going to cover that here in just a few minutes. But first, let's review those hand symbols and see how well you're doing with them and see what you can remember. Let's get started. Alright, let's review those hand signals again for the 7 principles of Leave No Trace and see how many you can remember. I'm not going to tell you what they are this time, so say them along with me as I do the motions. Here we go. How many did you get right? If you didn't get any of them, you might need to go back and watch episode 1 and see what they all are.
Pack it in, pack it out is a tried and true method to dispose of waste properly. It's easiest to do if you limit the amount of potential trash you take with you, and refine your packing list so you'll use most of your provisions and avoid the need to deal with leftovers or any extra potential trash. Here's a few common items that are found out on the trail that get left behind sometimes. Disposable diapers can last on the trail from 10 to 20 years, newspapers for 2 to 10 weeks. Glass jars by far take the longest, between thousands and millions of years to biodegrade. Also, plastic 6-pack containers can take up to 450 years to biodegrade. Also, don't forget to clip those rings so animals don't get tangled in them in case they do end up out in the woods. Hard plastic containers can be 20 to 30 years on the ground. And banana peels, something you would think would last a very short time, can still be there for 3 to 5 weeks if not disposed of properly. Cigarette butts for 2 to 5 years on the ground. And if hiking shoes have fallen apart on the trail, to find them out there, if they're not disposed of properly, they'll be there for 50 to 80 years. Regular tin cans can be 80 to 100 years on the ground, and aluminum soda cans can last 2 to 400 years. Now here's 2 items without years attached to them. How long do you think this Snickers bar wrapper would last on the ground? And what about this plastic water bottle? The candy wrapper would be 10 to 20 years, and the plastic water bottle would be 450 years. Reduce litter at the source. Much trash and litter originates from food items, and the easiest way to practice this is to pack it in, pack it out. If you find it on the ground and it doesn't belong there, go ahead and pick it up and dispose of it properly. We'll all appreciate it.
Proper disposal of human waste is important to avoid pollution of water sources, the negative impacts of someone else finding it, which can be terrifying, minimize the possibility of spreading disease, and to maximize the rate of decomposition. If a bathroom or an outhouse is available, any place that you go, use it. It's much better than going out in the woods and finding your own. But if one is not available, burying what you do is the best manner and the most effective method to meet those criteria of quicker decomposition and basically just hiding it from others finding it and not polluting any water sources. So you have to be very careful with that. So if you remember in episode 1, I showed you one of my 10 essentials that I bring with me on hikes is this little guy right here. And I like things that have multiple uses. So you see this is it's a little bit heavier duty garden trowel, so you can get it in any hardware store. But this one's got a nice serrated edge on it, so if you ever needed to cut through anything with it, this doubles as another option. As you can see, it's got some measuring numbers on there, which is helpful for what I'm about to show you. It's heavier. There's smaller, lighter weight ones, but this is the one that I carry with me. I'll sacrifice the extra weight for a metal one, just because it has extra features. And here in Tennessee, our soil can be rocky, and sometimes you get a lot of clay in it. Like this soil that I have here in this bucket is wet clay. It's what you're going to find out there in a lot of places. So I like to have something that's a little heavier duty that can dig through that. So I'm going to show you how to properly dig a cat hole. And they just call them cat holes. There's not any particular reason. But cat holes are the most widely accepted method of human waste disposal. So you're going to want to go to a place about 200 feet away from water sources, trails, your campsite. You know, you want to be a little bit further away so nobody accidentally finds it. And you want to select an inconspicuous site where there's other people, you know, where other people are unlikely to find it. With your garden trowel, you're going to dig a hole about 4 inches across. So as you can see, this is measured nicely to 4, so multiple use right there. And about 6 to 8 inches deep. So let's get into it. So this soil, this is from another project, so this is pretty loose. Sometimes you might get out there and find that the ground is very hard and difficult to dig in. But this one, and this is wet mud, it is raining. I planned on doing this outside, but it's raining today. So you're going to dig down and clear out your hole. And do the best you can to pile your dirt right around the edge. This is fake grass, by the way. We're not damaging any plant life while we're doing this demonstration. It's just for effect. So you're going to dig your hole about that deep, maybe a little bit more. I'm about to hit the bottom of the bucket here. But the nice thing about this trowel is I can get a general idea. This is about 6 inches long. So if I can get my trowel a couple inches below the surface, then I know for sure of how big my hole is. So to give you an idea, that's about a 4-inch wide hole. And I know it's hard to see on the screen, but 8 inches is going to come up to about right here. So I'm pretty close. I'm just at 6 inches. Let's go just a little bit more. Ooh, man, this clay is hard to work with. But this is indicative of things that you might find out there in a remote spot. In that rocky clay-based soil. So now you're about 8 inches down. You're going to set your trowel aside and take care of business. And for those of you who watched episode 1, I did remember to bring my toilet paper with me this time. So use the smallest amount needed. So let's just say breakfast was good and wasn't too terrible on your stomach. That's about all the toilet paper you need. So when you're done with it, there are some places, this is where you need to check with your kiosks and land management areas on what the rules are. Some places you cannot bury this, you have to pack it out with you. That's one of the nice things about having extra Ziploc bags with you, because you can put soiled things in one and just keep shoving them in the same one and it seals and you don't have to worry about it getting into your other stuff. But let's just say in this case you're able to bury it. So once business is done, you're going to put that down in there as far as you can get it. You're going to cover your hole back up. Pack it down as best you can. And then if you have leaves or some other natural things around it, just kind of disperse over the top of it, kind of disguise it and make it look like you were never there. That is the whole idea of leave no trace. So a quick word on toilet paper. Use your toilet paper sparingly and only use plain, just white, non-perfumed brands. You have to dispose of it properly. So again, check with the land management areas, read your kiosks, check out what the rules are. And toilet paper either should be thoroughly buried, just like we did here, in a cat hole, or in plastic bags, like you brought it in, if you have a couple extras. That's the best way to practice leave no trace. So that is the best way to answer the age-old question of what bears do in the woods. So there's a couple different ways you can cut the amount of trash that you take with you. The biggest culprit in your bag that's going to create trash that you're going to have to carry around with you is going to be your food. There are some other things that you may have that are disposable, but by and large, food is going to create the most of your litter. So most places, pack it in, pack it, well, I shouldn't say most places, all places, pack it in, pack it out. If you brought it with you, you need to bring it back out. So I have here a box of plain old Ritz crackers. These are great trail food. And just a quick word about trail food is you will find on most day trips, or even just overnight or even couple night trips, you don't need as much to eat as you might think you do. Most of the packs that I've seen come back from short backpacking trips always have a lot of food left over. They overpacked, which means they carried extra weight, they carried extra trash, and they probably planned, but maybe didn't plan as well as they should have for what they were actually going to eat. So they carried some unnecessary items and had the risk of having extra litter. So what I would do, personally, is a box like this. If I'm going on an extended trip, this is 8 fresh stacks. So these are probably, maybe 20 crackers per stack or thereabouts. That will probably go through a meal, depending on what it is that you've planned out. So instead of taking this whole box, almost everything now is double packaged. So open the box, and see now each one of these is in a nice little stack. So you can take all of those. This is now litter that you don't need. This is on the floor inside. I will pick that up later. I didn't just litter. But now you have all these individual packages. So the only trash that you're going to have with this is this extra wrapper right here. Now crackers I wouldn't take out of this wrapper just because it keeps them fresh, and stale crackers are no good on the trail. So I would keep these in these packages and just pack out this little bit of extra trash. But here's another example of a way that you can cut weight. If you're going on a longer trip, or you're taking the same types of food for each meal, for example, some backpackers will only take protein bars with them and just use protein bars throughout the trip. It's not a lot of variety, and there's nothing that says that you can't eat well on a backpacking trip. But if you just want to go with simple, and you're just going to bring granola bars or little things like this, these are Figgy Pops. They're actually really good. They don't sound like it, but they're pretty good for trail food. But I have several different types of bars in here. I would actually go ahead and unwrap these, all of my protein bars, and put them together in the same Ziploc bag. I'm not necessarily worried about flavor if I'm just grabbing a snack on the trail. And if we do get into another episode on how to do trail cooking, we'll talk more about how to do one-pot meals and cooking on a camp stove. That's a lot of fun, but that's going to be a much longer episode. But the idea behind this is, with your food, to reduce trash and to reduce a little bit of weight, pack like items together in a bag like this. If you can take them out of the wrappers, that's fantastic, because that's less trash that's going to be out there, and it's very easy to put any remaining trash in one of these extra Ziploc bags and bring it back home and dispose of it properly. So that's all the time we have today for this episode on principle number 3, dispose of waste properly. Some quick reminders: remember that if you pack it in, pack it out, and inspect your site and your area around you after each use, just to make sure that you didn't miss any trash. A note on trash is, please don't burn it. If you do have a fire, please don't burn your trash. Take it back out with you and dispose of it properly. And also, if you notice other places where people have accidentally dropped things and not seen it, please pick it up for them. We realize it's not yours, but it helps us all out if you'll just pick it up and take it back with you. Final word about human waste is that it does go in cat holes, and remember, 200 feet. Trails, campsites, and more importantly, water sources. Please keep that away from areas where it can contaminate water. And then finally, use your TP and any soaps that you use to clean yourself or your dishes or any of your camp gear. Use it sparingly and cautiously. And with that, We're going to close today's episode. Remember to practice Leave No Trace, and we'll see you next time when we discuss principle number 4, leave what you find. Have a good day.